On April 4, 1968, in Memphis, a gunshot ended the life of Martin Luther King Jr. at the age of 39. That night, it wasn't just a man who died. The body that carried a collective dream fell with him. The world watched in stunned silence as the final price was paid by someone who refused to step back. Nearly 3,000 years earlier, around 950 BC in Jerusalem, another man faced a different kind of death. Solomon spent his days laying stone upon stone to build the temple. 7 years of quiet labor, daily discipline, and solitary decisions. 2 men, different eras, the same price. This video is born from a central problem of our time. Men want greatness without sacrifice, respect without responsibility, and legacy without discipline. We live in the age of easy promises and quick abandonment. Everything starts with enthusiasm and ends at the first difficulty. But history has never been built by comfortable men. Greatness has always demanded clarity, discipline, and responsibility. Solomon and Martin Luther King Jr. are not heroic exceptions. They are proof of the pattern. Solomon ruled Israel 3 millennia ago. When given the chance to ask for anything, he chose wisdom, not fame or wealth. He built a temple that endured for centuries and wrote proverbs that still guide billions of people. Martin Luther King Jr., a Baptist pastor from the southern United States, carried a different kind of construction, a moral vision. He led the civil rights movement, was arrested 29 times, threatened daily, and assassinated at the height of his influence. Both lived for something greater than themselves. The purpose of this video is straightforward. You will understand the 7 prices that real men pay, why those prices are worth it, and how to develop the character required to bear them. This is not cheap motivation or recycled slogans. It is about facing reality without anesthesia. Real men are not defined by the comfort they accumulate, but by the weight they are willing to carry. Personal leadership begins when excuses end. Between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space lies our power to choose, wrote Viktor Frankl. Solomon chose discipline over popularity. King chose conviction over safety. Modern men choose as well every single day, even if they pretend not to notice. They choose to wake up early or hit snooze. They choose to take responsibility or outsource blame. They choose to build a temple or consume distractions. This reflection is not meant to please. It is a call to clarity of purpose, unshakable discipline, and total responsibility. Over the next few minutes, you will be confronted with uncomfortable choices. Some ideas will bruise the ego. Others will demand real change. That is the initial price, giving up the illusion that you can have everything without paying anything. Solomon and Martin Luther King Jr. paid high prices to live aligned with what they believed. Neither was perfect. Both made mistakes. Still, when confronted with what mattered most, they chose to move forward. The question is not whether the price is high. The real question is whether you are willing to pay it. This is only the first stage of the journey. Before talking about victory, success, or recognition, you must face the invisible cost of greatness. As you move forward, remember, no one stumbles into a legacy by accident. It is built day after day through small, repeated decisions. From here on, we will enter the 7 universal prices that separate ordinary men from exemplary men. Read slowly, reflect honestly, and do not move on without deciding who you choose to be. The next step demands courage, discipline, and responsibility. If you continue, you will no longer be able to claim ignorance. The path is set. From this point on, the choice is entirely yours. As I said, from now on, we will separate real men from boys, not out of arrogance, but out of honesty. Real men are not defined by what they want, but by what they are willing to pay. Many dream of respect, purpose, and legacy. Few accept the true cost of those things. From this point forward, we will outline the 7 universal prices that real men pay to live the life they claim to want. These are not pretty metaphors. They are unavoidable experiences. If you continue, you will no longer be able to pretend you didn't know. The first price is learning how to live alone. Yes, you need to understand that the men at the top are lonely. The higher a man climbs, the fewer companions he finds. This is not punishment, it is consequence. Big decisions are not made by committee or approved unanimously. Solomon ruled surrounded by people, yet profoundly alone. He had 700 wives, but none understood the weight of the mission. His writings reveal existential loneliness, not a lack of human contact. Leadership means deciding when no one else is willing to take the risk. Martin Luther King Jr. lived the same isolation. When he criticized the Vietnam War, he lost long-standing allies. He learned that clarity of purpose disturbs and that greatness intimidates. Carl Jung said that the deepest loneliness comes from the inability to communicate what truly matters. Nietzsche argued that the higher man learns to be alone. This price exists because real purpose drives away those who seek only comfort. In practice, friends of distraction disappear when you choose direction. Invitations fade, conversations lose depth. Loneliness hurts, but it protects focus. Anyone who cannot bear this price will never lead his own life. The second price is learning to live well with criticism. Anyone who decides to rise above the average becomes a target. Half won't understand, the other half will criticize. Solomon faced harsh accusations for high taxes and intense labor during the construction of the temple. Many called it oppression. King was labeled a communist, a radical, and an agitator, watched and publicly attacked. Change exposes the cowardice of others. Theodore Roosevelt reminded us that the critic is never in the arena. Aristotle was blunt. To avoid criticism, do nothing, say nothing, be nothing. When a man assumes personal leadership, even family members say he has changed. He has. He changed because he stopped living for approval. Criticism hurts because it touches old insecurities, but it also confirms movement. Those who remain still are rarely attacked. The man who pays this price learns discernment. Not every opinion deserves attention. He learns to separate noise from guidance. He understands that pleasing everyone means abandoning himself. Constant criticism is not a sign of failure. It is a sign of impact. The third price real men pay is renouncing comfort. Nothing extraordinary is born in comfort. What is difficult today becomes extraordinary tomorrow. Solomon rose before sunrise, supervised the work, repeated discipline while others slept. His proverbs warn against laziness and the self-deception of excessive rest. King could have been a wealthy, respected pastor, but he chose marches, prison cells, and threats. Comfort breeds mediocrity. Discipline forges character. David Goggins teaches doing what you hate to strengthen the mind. Seneca reminded us that a trained mind makes the body rich. In practice, this means less distraction and more routine. Netflix becomes the exception. Endless scrolling ends. Training happens even when you're tired. Work moves forward even without applause. Renunciation hurts because it confronts old habits, but it frees you from future regret. Whoever refuses to give up comfort today will become its slave tomorrow. This price exists because discipline is not glamorous, it is foundational. The fourth price is bearing the weight of responsibility. Responsibility is not rhetoric, it is a load, and that load grows with greatness. Solomon took the throne young and acknowledged his own limitations. He asked for wisdom because he knew his decisions would affect millions. King led crowds, aware that every word could ignite or calm a nation. When many depend on you, there is no room to outsource blame. Jordan Peterson insists that taking responsibility gives life meaning. Jocko Willink calls it extreme ownership. Everything begins and ends with you. The real man abandons the question, whose fault is it, and replaces it with, what will I do now? In practice, this shows up in keeping promises, correcting mistakes, and protecting those who depend on you. Responsibility eliminates excuses, but restores control. Without this price, there is no maturity. The fifth price is one of the hardest for most men, especially those who remained boys for too long and built relationships on habit rather than purpose. Skipping the game, not going out drinking every week, and avoiding endless parties require rupture. Leaving old friendships behind hurts. Few do it. Solomon accumulated relationships but lacked depth. His proverbs speak of loneliness within one's own home. King was criticized by black religious leaders who had once supported him. Growth is uncomfortable because it exposes stagnation in others. C.S. Lewis reminded us that happiness does not depend on what can be lost. Marcus Aurelius taught not to try to control opinions. Relationships based solely on the past do not survive purpose. The man who pays this price learns to choose quality over quantity. A few aligned bonds sustain more than many empty ones. Anyone who tries to grow without losing anything ends up not growing at all. The sixth price is learning to live with fear. Real men feel fear. The difference is that they do not let fear decide. Solomon feared failure even before the temple began, but answered with discipline. King received dozens of threats every day and still stepped onto platforms. The night before he died, he declared he was not afraid. Fear is constant because risk is real. The greater the dream, the greater the exposure. Rollo May defined courage as moving forward despite despair. Nelson Mandela spoke of triumphing over fear, not eliminating it. The weak man obeys fear and calls it prudence. The exemplary man acts even with a racing heart. Each confrontation reduces the power of the next fear. Living with fear is not weakness. It is proof that something important is at stake. The seventh price that few men accept is dying for convictions. Real convictions cost everything, sometimes status, sometimes comfort, sometimes life itself. Solomon died symbolically to easy popularity and excess, choosing to fulfill a higher purpose. Martin Luther King Jr. died physically at 39, stating that he might not reach the promised land, but that his people would. Socrates chose death over renouncing his ideas. Winston Churchill said that courage guarantees all other virtues. The world rarely tolerates those who confront deep truths. Defending convictions brings social death before any other. The real man accepts this symbolic death so he does not die inside. When convictions govern actions, a rare peace emerges, sustained by coherence. This is the final price. Without it, everything else is performance. After facing the 7 prices, the inevitable question arises: why would anyone choose this path? If it hurts, if it costs loneliness, criticism, fear, and loss, why not choose common comfort? The answer is simple and harsh, because the price of mediocrity is higher. Men who avoided the immediate cost carry a silent weight for decades. Those who paid the right prices left something that endures. Solomon and Martin Luther King Jr. died centuries and decades ago, respectively, yet they are more alive than most of the living. This is not romanticizing, it is historical fact. The first reason these prices are worth it is the legacy that remains. Solomon ruled about 3,000 years ago. His temple stood for 4 centuries, and his proverbs crossed cultures, religions, and generations. They are still read, studied, and applied by billions of people. Martin Luther King Jr. died more than half a century ago, yet his impact shaped laws, consciences, and social structures. The Civil Rights Act, the Voting Rights Act, and a national holiday in his honor are only the visible surface of something greater. Viktor Frankl said that he who has a why can endure almost any how. Legacy is born when a man accepts prices others avoid. What you do today determines whether someone will remember you tomorrow. Children, grandchildren, and even strangers feel the effects of the choices you make now. The second reason is a kind of respect no amount of money can buy. Fame can be manufactured. Respect cannot. Solomon was not respected because he was king, but because he was wise. The Queen of Sheba traveled great distances to test him with difficult questions. She left convinced not by display, but by depth. King received the Nobel Peace Prize at 34. Even his opponents recognized his moral coherence. Ralph Waldo Emerson said that self-respect is the foundation of all virtue. Epictetus reminded us that it is not what happens, but how we respond that defines who we are. True respect begins within. A son who watches his father wake up early, keep his word, and own his mistakes learns something no financial inheritance can replace. This kind of respect spans generations. The third reason is inner transformation. The greatest return on this path is not external, it is internal. Solomon began young and insecure, became a firm leader, and later a deeply reflective man. His journey shows progressive maturation. King started as a shy pastor, became a national leader, and ended as a global moral reference. Carl Jung said that the greatest human privilege is becoming who you truly are. Nietzsche claimed that what does not kill us makes us stronger. Jordan Peterson reinforces that the only fair comparison is with who you were yesterday. Every price paid forges something inside. One day, without warning, you realize that you respect yourself. That moment is priceless. It is when the mirror stops accusing and starts confirming. The fourth reason is the peace of a clear conscience. Men who avoid paying prices live with the recurring thought of, what if? Regret is a weight that grows over time. Those who faced what they needed to face sleep better. Solomon, despite his mistakes, knew he had fulfilled his central mission. King, on his final night, spoke with serenity, even knowing the imminent risk. Marcus Aurelius taught that if something is not right, it should not be done. If it is not true, it should not be said. Seneca said that a clear conscience is the softest pillow. The peace that comes from coherence does not depend on applause. It stays with a man to the end. These prices are worth paying because they produce clarity. Men who refuse to pay live confused, jumping from one desire to the next. Men who pay learn how to say no. Clarity of purpose simplifies choices. Unshakable discipline organizes daily chaos. Total responsibility eliminates victimhood. Character forged in fire sustains hard decisions. Authentic personal leadership emerges when a man governs himself before trying to influence others. Purpose-driven ambition replaces vanity with direction. The exemplary man is not perfect, but he is consistent. There is also a silent benefit, recognition among equals. There exists an invisible community of men who pay prices. They recognize one another without introductions. It is not clothing, position, or status. It is posture. It is language. It is how a man acts under pressure. This recognition does not appear on social media, but it opens doors money cannot. Trust attracts trust. In the end, the prices are worth it because the alternative cost is far too high. Not paying today means paying tomorrow, in frustration, resentment, and emptiness. The math is simple. The price hurts for 20 or 30 years. Regret hurts for 60 or 70. Stephen Covey taught us to begin with the end in mind. When you imagine your final day, you realize that comfort does not console and distraction does not satisfy. What remains is the question, did I live according to what I knew was right? These prices do not promise an easy life. They promise an upright one. They do not guarantee the absence of pain, but they offer meaning. Solomon and King proved under extreme circumstances that paying the price is worth it. Now the choice is personal. You can avoid the cost and accept the weight of regret, or you can assume the prices and build something that outlives you. The next part addresses exactly this, how to become the man capable of paying. After understanding the prices and why they are worth it, a practical question arises. How does a man become capable of paying them? No one is born ready. No one wakes up disciplined, courageous, and responsible by accident. This is built. It always has been. Solomon did not begin wise. Martin Luther King Jr. did not begin as a national leader. Both started small, aware that without structure, purpose dies. This part is not inspirational, it is structural. Here are the steps that turn intention into character and dreams into daily practice. Step 1. Define a non-negotiable purpose. Everything starts here. Without clear purpose, every difficulty becomes an excuse. Purpose is an anchor in the storm. It keeps a man standing when no one applauds. When God asked Solomon what he wanted, his answer was direct: wisdom to govern well. He did not ask for long life, pleasure, or wealth. King also began small in Montgomery with a local boycott. The purpose grew, but the route was clear. Simon Sinek teaches that those who start with why sustain the how. Viktor Frankl showed that meaning can endure any suffering. A real purpose is intimidating. It demands years. It survives without applause. Practical exercise. Complete these 3 sentences, 1 line each, no more than 15 words. First, I exist to 2. At my funeral, I want them to say. Third, my greatest regret would be not having. Be brutally honest. Write it. Do not type it. Post it where you will see it every day. Undeclared purpose evaporates. Written purpose demands coherence. Step 2. Develop unbreakable discipline. Purpose without discipline is a beautiful fantasy. The most common mistake is waiting for motivation. Motivation is unstable. Discipline is a decision. Jocko Willink sums it up: discipline is freedom. David Goggins proves that action creates energy, not the other way around. Discipline is born in small, non-negotiable routines. A simple 30-minute daily protocol. Wake up at the agreed time. No snooze, no phone. 10 minutes of physical movement, even basic. 10 minutes dedicated to purpose. Reading wisdom, planning, or silent work. 30 minutes a day seems insignificant, but it adds up to more than 180 hours a year. That builds anything. Additional rule: never allow 48 hours to pass without doing something difficult. Training, an uncomfortable conversation, a postponed task. William James said life is a mass of habits. Aristotle said we are what we repeatedly do. Real discipline appears when you keep promises to yourself, tired, unmotivated, and unseen. Step 3. Prepare for solitude. The more you grow, the fewer people follow. This is a hard truth. Ignoring it creates frustration. Accepting it creates peace. Beer buddies do not understand someone who wakes at 5 a.m. to build something invisible. Quality matters more than quantity. Solomon had thousands around him and few confidants. King spoke to crowds and trusted only a few. There is productive solitude and destructive solitude. Productive solitude creates clarity, focus, and depth. Destructive solitude breeds bitterness and victimhood. The difference is intention. Monthly test: 4 hours alone. No phone, no music, no distractions. Only paper and pen. Simple questions. What am I building? Am I on the right path? What price am I avoiding? Carl Jung said, solitude is the inability to communicate what truly matters. Friedrich Nietzsche said the strong man learns to walk alone. Henry David Thoreau isolated himself to gain clarity, not to escape the world, but to return to it whole. Conscious solitude does not create bosses or formal leaders. It forms emotionally stable men, capable of listening, respecting differences, and not reacting impulsively. If you cannot tolerate your own presence, you will always depend on external validation, noise, distraction, or approval. And a man who cannot sustain himself internally transfers his voids to relationships, family, and work. Learning to be alone is not abandoning people. It is stopping the use of people to fill emptiness. Only a man who can endure silence can live with others without dominating, invading, or fleeing. This is the kind of strength that builds healthy families, honest relationships, and an upright life. Step 4. Develop courage through exposure. Courage is not innate. It is built through progressive exposure. No one begins by facing crowds. Solomon handled smaller decisions before greater ones. King began with a local boycott before national marches. Courage grows when you voluntarily place yourself in discomfort. Monthly cycle protocol. Month 1, social courage. Say 3 necessary no's. Express 2 unpopular opinions. Have 1 difficult conversation. Month 2, physical courage. Exhausting training. Physical challenge. Controlled fasting. Month 3, professional courage. Ask for a raise. Start a side project. Speak publicly. Month 4, moral courage. Defend someone treated unjustly. Admit a mistake publicly. End a toxic relationship. Rollo May defined courage as advancing despite despair. Nelson Mandela showed that courage does not eliminate fear. It walks through it. The sign of progress is clear. You do things weakly that make your stomach tighten. Fear shrinks. Identity strengthens. Step 5. Assume total responsibility. Nothing changes while blame remains external. Men who pay prices assume total responsibility, not out of guilt, but control. Solomon knew bad decisions would be his. King knew strategic mistakes would be charged to him. Jordan Peterson insists that responsibility organizes life. Jocko Willink calls it extreme ownership. The question shifts from, "Why did they do this to me?" to, "What can I do now?" In practice, responsibility looks like showing up on time, keeping your word, fixing failures without excuses. It is heavy, but it restores dignity. Men who flee responsibility live resentful. Men who embrace it live tired, but at peace. Step 6. Build character under pressure. Character is not revealed in comfort, but under pressure. It is easy to be ethical when everything is going well. The challenge is staying principled when it hurts. Solomon faced political, economic, and spiritual pressure. King faced threats, prison, and betrayal. Marcus Aurelius taught action guided by rational nature, not emotion. Character is built when you do what is right, even when no one sees. Do not lie when it would be convenient. Do not betray when you could hide it. Do not quit when quitting would be justified. Character forged in fire sustains authentic personal leadership. Without it, any position is unstable. Step 7. Commit to the long term. Nothing here is fast. Those who seek shortcuts do not build legacies. Solomon took years to complete the temple. King fought more than a decade before seeing major legal change. Stephen Covey taught long-term vision. Long-term commitment requires patience, consistency, and perspective. Recognition may not come now. It may never come in your lifetime. Still, the work must be done. Purpose-driven ambition replaces vanity with service. The exemplary man thinks in decades, not weeks. Becoming the man who pays prices is not an event, it is a process. Purpose provides direction. Discipline sustains, responsibility strengthens, character under fire consolidates, authentic leadership emerges, purpose-driven ambition gives meaning. The Solomon of the 21st century does not copy men of the past, he learns from them. The next part will show how this path collides with modern society and why resistance is more necessary than ever. Paying prices has always been difficult. Today, it has become rare, not because prices increased, but because society offers constant anesthesia. The modern man is not blocked from growth, he is distracted. The problem is not lack of opportunity, but excess escape. While Solomon waited 7 years to complete the temple and Martin Luther King Jr. fought over a decade to change unjust laws, many today quit after 7 days. Modern culture does not reward depth, it rewards speed. It does not value consistency, it values stimulation. The first obstacle is instant gratification, infinite entertainment, social media, pornography, food delivered in minutes, information without reflection. Everything is designed to avoid effort. The brain learns quickly. Easy dopamine beats hard reward, but what requires no effort builds nothing. Cal Newport warns that deep focus has become rare. Nir Eyal shows how products are designed to capture attention. The price today is looking strange. A man who disables notifications, limits social media, and creates in silence is labeled antisocial or outdated. Still, it is the only path to build something solid. Without conscious renunciation, discipline is impossible. The second obstacle is victim culture. Never has there been more access and information, and never so many convinced they are powerless. Modern society teaches external blame before responsibility. System, government, family, past, everything becomes justification. Solomon faced political threats and scarcity, and still built. King faced segregation, violence, and unjust laws, and still acted. The modern man, with more comfort than any generation before, often chooses to complain. Jordan Peterson puts it simply: clean your room before trying to change the world. Responsibility today carries a social cost. You will be called insensitive, privileged, or harsh. Still, without total responsibility, there is no emotional or psychological maturity. The third obstacle is confusion about masculinity. Toxic behaviors were rightly criticized. The problem is that criticism slid into denial. Strength became aggression. Discipline became oppression. Self-control became repression. The result is identity emptiness. Neither violent masculinity nor passive virtue solves it. Healthy masculinity, as shown by Solomon and King, unites firmness and empathy, discipline and sensitivity, courage and respect. Brené Brown reminds us that vulnerability is not weakness, it is emotional honesty. The price today is criticism from all sides, too sensitive for some, too firm for others. Still, clarity outweighs approval. These obstacles create modern traps. Social validation replaces real respect. Public complaint replaces silent construction. Endless entertainment replaces focused creation. The antidote is simple and difficult. Long-term projects instead of short impulses, responsibility instead of victimhood, self-governance instead of reaction. The emotionally strong man does not dominate others, nor erase himself to please them. He sustains his life with coherence. Swimming against the current is required. Discomfort, criticism, and strangeness are inevitable, but the reward is rare: wholeness. A man who resists constant anesthesia develops presence, emotional stability, and respect for differences. He does not react to everything, he chooses. That ability to choose consciously is the true sign of maturity today. There are no comfortable explanations left. After understanding the prices, their value, and how to become capable of paying them, only the choice remains. Imagine two doors. The first promises comfort, easy approval, and predictable days. No criticism, no demands, no expectations. 20 years later, inner silence, shallow respect, and the constant what if. The second promises daily sacrifice, discomfort, and invisible effort. Criticism, solitude, hard work. 20 years later, coherence, peace, and dignity. This is reality. Solomon and Martin Luther King Jr. did not live to please their time. One built a temple that endured centuries. The other moved consciences and changed laws at the cost of his life. Both understood that greatness demands high prices. Now the question turns to you. How old are you today? What are you doing with that time? Are you building something that lasts, or consuming what distracts? Do you choose formative discomfort or anesthetic comfort? This daily decision defines who you become in the end. Nothing here is neutral. Everything has a cost, always. The high price is frightening, but regret is worse when it arrives late. Imagine yourself at 70, sitting in silence, reviewing choices. In one scenario, you avoided risks, pleased everyone, and lived distracted. The result, frustration and self-reproach. In the other, you faced fear, lost some people, and upheld values. The result, peace. The math is simple. The price hurts for 20 or 30 years. Regret weighs for 60 or 70. As Marcus Aurelius taught, you could be living better now, if you chose to. This truth does not change with time. It only asserts itself, always silent, just, relentless. You are not alone on this journey, even when it feels that way. Upright men have always existed, even if invisible. They feel fear, fatigue, and doubt, but they move forward. They respect differences, dialogue without losing firmness, and care for their families with real presence. They are not perfect, they are responsible. The strength they build does not oppress, it sustains. On the other side of effort lies something rare today: clarity, emotional stability, and silent respect. That is the reward of those who choose to pay. Few choose it, but the results endure. This choice transforms entire lives inside and out. Today, always, now the call is direct. If this content resonated, do not consume it as entertainment. Like it so more men can access it. Subscribe to continue this journey with depth and consistency. Share it with someone who needs unfiltered truth. And most importantly, choose one price today. Write your purpose. Turn off one distraction. Face one difficult conversation. The decision is now. Transformation is daily. Legacy is built step by step. Welcome to the journey of the whole man. Go and build your life with courage, respect, and meaning. Time is passing. Choose consciously. Today defines tomorrow. Always. Now, not later.